Hello, I'm Amanda Rafuse, and this is Spark, the Upper Valley's new arts and culture program here on CATV. We're hoping to spark your interest in the arts by hosting one-on-one conversations that explore the depth and variety of culture here in the Upper Valley, to the amazing people who create and those who administrate, the artists who educate and the generous patrons who donate, the audiences, students, and consumers who enjoy and participate. Welcome to Spark. I am absolutely delighted to welcome to Spark Heather Szczepiorkowski of Hanover, New Hampshire. Now, Heather is a sculptor, and she's a self-taught artist with a passion for portraiture and recreating the human figure. Lately, she's expanded her gaze to look into modeling the gorgeous architecture of flowers and other structures in nature, which I think we're seeing one of her beautiful pieces right behind her. Recent exhibitions of her work include Ava's Shadowing Alfred, an alpha dog show, and the Catherine Lorillard and Wolf Club's annual showcase of women artists. She says also that St. Gaudens National Park has been a major influence on her art, and I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we get into our interview. Heather, welcome to Spark.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
I'm delighted. It's so excited. And first of all, can I just ask, that is one of your works that we're seeing behind you, correct?
It's called Easter Lily Trinity. So yes, it's right behind there. I can talk more about it later, but yes. So I thought it's nice. I'm in the gallery. I'm currently at the Ava Gallery right now as we're filming this. So I thought it'd be fun for people to see at least a little bit of what the exhibition is about and what's here.
Absolutely. And also that idea of architecture of flowers, I think is such a beautiful idea. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But first of all, tell us a little bit about how you became interested in sculpture. How were you hooked into this form of visual art?
Oh, it's a great question. What I found is that if you look at most art schools, sculpture, working with clay and specifically portraiture is really not taught anymore. And also the human figure, it's not in a lot of curriculums. I have loved portraiture, and I come from the Boston area and was doing a lot of drawing. And ironically, I signed up for a portraiture class, sculpting a portrait in clay in Cambridge, Massachusetts. There's like a Cambridge Center for Adult Ed. And I thought, well, this will help me be a better drawer. And I went there, and for me, there's something just absolutely magical about working with clay. So it combined working with clay and portraiture, like two huge loves. I didn't know I loved working in clay, but for me, it was like coming home. I loved it. I wanted to do more of it. And that's kind of where St. Gaudens comes in, because it's very difficult to find places that teach this. And when I relocated up here, I was so delighted to find St. Gaudens is a national park here. And he was an amazing artist, did a lot of portraiture and reliefs, and in the summer, they offer classes, which is just an enormous opportunity. So.
Wow, I did not know that they offered classes. I always think of it as the park and the colony, but wow.
So another artist, she, in this exhibit, because this is an exhibit with, there are 4 sculptors, and I'm one of the 4, and she and we often took classes in the summer there, because we just love this portraiture and working in clay. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. So did you, prior to your college education, what was sort of your first impetus when you were young that art was going to be a calling for you?
I think I've always known, it has always been my calling. I think I can only speak for myself. I think it's something I knew like in grade school. That was just kind of my passion. I think in the world we live in, I think it's very difficult to actually make a living on being an artist. So I actually became a career counselor, which I loved. It was a fantastic job for me, and I have a master's in counseling. But it's only until recently that I've decided to make it more of a full-time, it's like my profession now. Wow. But I've always just felt called to it.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So what do you think for you personally, and then I think we can kind of go out from there, what does sculpture bring to your life? Like, how does it shift your perspective in some way? What's sort of the impact of that specific art form on how you think?
Yeah, I think I can speak at it on a couple different levels. There's just the process of working in the clay, and I find that just very gratifying. It's something that I just, as I mentioned before, when I first started working clay, it was like coming home. So on a personal level, it's just something that it just grounds me. It makes me be a better me, so to speak. And I notice it in my life if I'm not doing enough art, as do other people around me. But it's also, I feel like being an artist, there's a component of being a gift to the world in terms of we're making pieces, but we're making it for the world. Wow. I don't know. And that's part of what this exhibition is about. I think people have been through some really rough times in the past year with the pandemic, and with Sacred Encounters, we just want people to know that God loves them in this unconditional way. And I think all the sculptors, we all felt like that message doesn't get out enough, and we wanted people to know that. So I guess on two levels, it's fundamentally, I feel like it's my calling. It's like a grounding for me. And then it's also the work itself becomes a gift to the world, or at least that's what our intention is.
That's remarkable. That is so
there are
beautiful.
days when the piece isn't working very well and you're like, why am I doing this? So, I often think of Thomas Edison, like 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration, that sort of, like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Will anybody care? That sort of thing. Clearly, it's part of the process of creating art. So.
Yeah. But I think it's really interesting that you have that sort of personal mission for your art to provide a gift to the world and to help people to see some beauty and illumination in the world. That's really remarkable. Yeah. So, this sort of gets to what sculpture as an art form brings to people's lives, to people who come in and view your work. What is that gift that you're hoping to give to them?
Well, I think specifically this show is called Sacred Encounters, and in working, it's great to work in collaboration. I work with 3 other sculptors. We're all women, and that in and of itself has been a fantastic experience. We all had a shared vision of just, I think for all of us, it's become especially clear that it's been a rough year for many, many people, and we really wanted people to know that there's this divine presence, it's God that loves us so much. And we just wanted to get that message out into the world. And I can't speak for each artist, because each artist is going to have their own individual spin is not the correct word, but vision, so to speak, take on how they experience the divine and how they have their own sacred encounters. That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's very personal in how people perceive the work. Is that
exactly right? And so we're hoping with this particular show, we're hoping to just uplift people, and it's for the community.
Yeah. Well, I loved what you said about this. We are on a light-bringing mission and hope that the work can uplift all who have suffered in these dark days. And that's a very generous gift to bring your talents and to help people to feel better about the world right now. We can all use it, that's for sure.
That's what we kind of felt. We feel like it was timely.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're talked about, and you, I think, refer to yourself as a contemplative artist, and I can even feel in your energy, even though this is a Zoom call, I'm like, oh, I'm sort of getting calmer. I can kind of feel that sense of peace come through you. What do you think other people can do, people who maybe don't consider themselves artists, but to bring that sense of peace into their lives through art? Obviously, going to see this exhibit will be one way, but what are some other ways that people can bring art into their lives in order to foster that sense of well-being and peace?
Yeah, I've really found there's a power in making art. And even just setting aside 10, 15 minutes a day just to create kind of in an unconditional way, meaning don't sit down and say, like, I've got to create something gorgeous or a masterpiece. It's very hard in our kind of society and culture to, number one, just set aside 15 minutes and not be busy, but it allows you to have time that you're kind of not busy, so to speak. And people can call it, they have different terms for that, but it's really just kind of stepping back from your life. And I think creating something is a great way to do it. I find the trick is to not have a lot of judgment as you're doing it, so that it becomes just an act of creation instead of like, this has to be fill in the blank, whatever you want it to be or look like or something.
That's interesting. It makes me think of that Buddhist practice of erasing after you're done with something, or breaking the pottery.
It has definitely come to mind often because, sculpting is a funny practice. Like, I don't know, I can do a hair, like some of these pieces I've done somebody's hair for hours and hours and hours and then realize that's not what I want. And then I literally erase it. So I've literally talked to my family about the fact that I feel like, the Buddhist monk was like, yeah, I'm just going to erase that all. Although I'm not as detached as that Buddhist monk.
It's still upsetting. It's still a little upsetting to you.
I'd love to be, striving for that detached. Not there. Yeah.
That's maybe what makes you an artist.
Exactly. It's like, I can't believe I have to do this again. So
it's also what makes you a human. I think if we were all, yeah, but it's interesting, that idea of sort of egolessness as you're approaching something creative and letting go of what you think you should do and just doing.
Yeah,
right?
It's hard to do, but that's why I recommend just set aside, put on a timer for 15 minutes and just say, I'm just going to do whatever happens for 15 minutes. And it doesn't, because it's such a short period of time, people tend to be more forgiving. I mean, if people want to do longer, that's great. But I've just found people can forgive themselves for wasting time, with shorter bits of time.
Sure. Yeah. And that goes for sculpture, for painting, for writing, certainly for any form of kind of creative.
Whatever. I feel like everybody is called to create in whatever way it is. An engineer is called to create in a different way. But I feel like I think it's vital to the human nature and the human condition.
Yeah. Yeah. Or getting up and dancing in your living room. That's what we can all do.
It doesn't, music, dance, it's really what your purpose is. What is it for you? Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what do you enjoy doing to bring culture into your, aside from obviously sculpture, what other ways do you find to bring culture into your life or the arts into your life?
Sure. I was thinking about, how do I bring culture? Well, I'm a foodie.
There you go. Yeah.
I have a huge sweet tooth. So we recently got a fantastic dessert from a local Indian restaurant, and it had like honey and rose water and cardamom in the syrup. It was fantastic. So I'm like, I need to make this. And then next week I'm going to make it's a French dessert called île flottante, which means floating island. And anyway, that's just fun. So I was thinking about, how do I bring culture in my life? It's not really, I don't know, but I love food and I love sweet tooth. And it's a fun way to bring, I love experiencing cultures through their food. So it's not a sculpture, but
yeah, no, it is culinary art is an art. And I just want to say, you just have to prove it. I would like to try some of those desserts. That's all.
You have my information.
So you've touched on this, and I love the idea too that you're bringing food and your sweet tooth into life. What do you think is one way that a viewer might think like a sculptor today? What would be one thing that you say, oh, if you look around, here's a thought?
I think it's true of sculptors and just artists in general. It's slowing down to understand and study. So for me as a sculptor, especially of portrait heads, I'm always shocked by, especially in the beginning, that I have a head, I live in a head, but when I had to sculpt it, I realized I knew nothing about that, like the proportions of it, how much, oh, it's in thirds, oh, the eyes are halfway down. Like, I knew nothing about the head I've lived in my whole life. So I find that it's similar to that 15 minutes. It's just it's observing and understanding. And I find that the visual arts really allow you to do that, in order to draw or to sculpt. And my emphasis, obviously, portraiture, there has to be like an understanding, and just the ability to observe. And it takes kind of a quieting to be able to do that. So I hope
So
that.
slow down and breathe and look around.
And it's very hard to do with all of our texts and emails and everything there's this constant flow that we have to almost pull ourselves out of to do it. So.
Yeah. I love that. Well, you just made my heart rate slow down a little bit. So thank you for that.
I'm glad for that.
And Heather, congratulations on the exhibit. And, again, we're just going to remind everybody to check out avagallery.org, where you can learn about this exhibit. And it's running all the way through the Women's History Month, correct? So all the way through March.
Yeah, it's through, I think, April 17th. So
perfect. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for joining us on Spark.
So much, Amanda.
We're so grateful. Take care. And you have been watching Spark. This is CATV's Upper Valleys Arts and Culture program. And you can go to CATV's YouTube channel to learn more about Heather and every other guest by visiting their websites listed in the episode descriptions. Thank you for watching Spark.